Welcome to the first ever episode of Under Center with Jake Russell. Coach, it's your first time here, first season with the Tigers. So excited to have you. I hope you're feeling a little comfortable in the seat.
Yeah, excited to be here. Excited for the first coaches show here, and obviously the first game week, just a lot of excitement and just a great feeling around campus. Classes started today, so just really excited for this first game week.
So you mentioned it's your first game week, but you're not new to the program here. You've been to the campus, you've played here. Let's start a little bit with maybe of your backstory, what got you to Campbellsville as a student, as a player, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, I spent 3 years at the University of Kentucky playing football and baseball there, and got to a point where, wasn't really getting what I wanted there, and started to explore some options. Had mutual friend or two here that was actually working here, and they reached out to both football and baseball coaches, and really baseball kind of took the lead. Coach Neffendorf at the time was here. Obviously, Coach Sanders, Coach LeBlue were both here as well, and they did an awesome job. Baseball was a big part of my decision. Also was able to meet Coach Thomas. Coach Cantwell was a big part of it for me. And kind of did the NAIA World Tour. I like to joke with people, went to all the NAIA schools around the state, some in Tennessee. And Campbellsville just kind of checked all the boxes. Both football and baseball were really good programs. Facilities, the indoor was a big thing for me, having that resource at all times. And I thought the Christian aspect, the faith aspect of the school, along with really strong academics, and just a really good fit, on paper, and turned out to be a really good fit over the 2 years I spent there.
So you play here, you rack up, numerous records. You and one of your assistant coaches, Hunter Brown, you all start racking up record books. You become NAIA Player of the Year. You get a lot of success playing. Now you move over to coach at KCU. So talk maybe a little bit about your time at KCU, maybe some lessons you learned there that you're bringing here.
Yeah, I tiptoed into coaching after I got done playing, and I was very quick to tell everybody I would never be a head coach. I did not want to, did not interest me. I wanted to coach offense, quarterbacks, be an offensive coordinator one day. I just did not want the duties and responsibilities that came with being a head coach. And very quickly into my coaching career, I saw the impact a head coach can have on young men, on a football program, on a school, on a community. And that seed started to get planted. Spent some time coaching quarterbacks, then became an offensive coordinator. And then 6 weeks before the first game in 2021, I was hired as the head coach at KCU. Just an unbelievable learning experience. There's things that you could not prepare for, no matter how much time and preparation, how many books you've read, how many great coaches you've studied. There's things that you cannot prepare for that you'll face on a daily basis when you become a head coach. So the 2 years at KCU, unbelievable. A lot of awesome people there. We had some great things going within our program. We did some really good things on the field there, and we also did some really great things off the field there. And then, of course, this opportunity kind of came about in the spring. And, my alma mater, great university, a place that I see that should be an NAIA powerhouse in all aspects, and definitely the football program being a big part of that. So just, great opportunity. Like I said, obviously even a little closer to family, some things that outside of just my profession that really checked a lot of our boxes, and super happy to be here.
So you come away from coaching 2 seasons at KCU, you get some experience, this head coaching job becomes available. Maybe talk a little bit about how you fall into that, maybe a little bit of the experience of that, and then what made that decision to come back here.
Yeah, I think there was mutual interest, right? A successful playing career on a couple really good teams here that I think, just had a huge impact, not just within the football program within those walls, but within the university as a whole. It was a time where the university was growing very fast, and I don't ever think being successful at sports hurts that. Football being, I think, kind of the ringleader in that, with as passionate a sport it is, with as excited as people get about the 5 home games a year. A lot of people just really rally around that. And the great thing is our athletics program, all the sports are successful. They've all been great, and I really enjoyed that being a student athlete here. And then, just went through the normal process, the interviews, and coming and checking out and doing, my due diligence and asking the questions and all those things. And then, of course, on their side as well, obviously a school like this is going to attract many, many great candidates. And I think it was just a great fit on both sides. Again, for me, I have no interest in coaching Division I football today. They couldn't pay me enough to do it. I love my wife, my kids. I want that perfect balance for me of, my faith, my family, and football in that order. And this Campbellsville here really supports that, encourages that, and provides that opportunity to really, thrive in all three of those. And it's been great.
So you get announced as the head coach. There's a press conference, a little interview. Describe some of those feelings. You come back on campus, you find out you're selected for this head coaching job at your alma mater. This is all kind of a realization. You were really emotional at your press conference, which was great. I love seeing that. Somebody that really cares, which is one thing I like about this, our athletics program, is we have a lot of coaches that care, a lot of coaches that care about this community. So just talk a little bit through those feelings.
Yeah, I just have told people that watched the moment or whatever it was, the press conference that day, it's kind of really the last couple days had caught up with me. So, officially took the job just a few days before, and actually knew I was going to take the job and had to go back to KCU and run a practice that afternoon, knowing this is the last practice I'll ever, coach here, have here, and a lot of my players and even some of the people there. That was emotional in itself. Trying to tell all the players, I brought them in individually to tell them I thought that was the right way to do it. And then, 48 hours later, you're up there behind the podium getting introduced at your alma mater, realizing like I have a new home, my wife, my kids. Hopefully this is a place where we live a long time. My kids grow up here, go to school here, and all that combined, it was very overwhelming, just to be honest with you. Not in like a anxious or a stressful way, but just in like a lot's happened here in the last 3 or 4 days, and just honestly a big feeling also of just kind of happiness and gratitude. Just to, when I thought about what I wanted to be as a head coach, what my vision was, it was at a place like Campbellsville, and obviously my experience as a student athlete here, specifically, if this opportunity ever came open, it was kind of a dream for me.
I loved seeing the outpouring too, not only community members, there were some trustee members, some higher ranking people. Dr. Hopkins got up there, some of the football team had shown up, the coaches had shown up. I think that outpouring was just, something really nice to see, that support for a new coach, especially, you're not new to the program, so everybody is very familiar and able to really give you that.
No doubt. Seeing a lot of familiar faces, some faces that I had not seen since I graduated from here, December of 2015. So that's really cool. In a way, it really felt like I was here yesterday as a football player. And then sometimes I get reminded that it's been 8 years, seeing somebody I haven't seen in 8 years, seeing new buildings that weren't here when I was here, seeing, now there's about 8 more teams as well. There's a lot more people around campus. The school is just growing and growing, which is super exciting. But yeah, that was really cool. I mean, again, football is a big rallying point for most universities, and that goes from Alabama to, down to our level. And I think it can be a very impactful and very powerful thing if done right. And that's not all about winning. I mean, winning is part of it. That's exciting. People love to get behind a winner, support a winner, watch a winner, all those type of things. But then I think if you do it right, the platform we're given through a football program, our guys are given as football players, our coaches are given as football coaches, can be very, for me, that's what it's about, very impactful, very powerful, supporting and encouraging the university's mission, which goes way beyond win football games. It's, impact young men, impact people.
All right, well, we're going to step away, take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk with Coach about his first off-season and first recruiting cycle here on Under Center with Jake Russell.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you
There's so many rewards in life. You coming into our home was one of the greatest rewards we could have ever had.
You know, it took 20 years, and I got my third child, who was 17 at the time.
It's so cool to watch the adult that you've become, and you really have done as much for us as you think we've done for you.
Welcome back to Under Center with Jake Russell. I'm your host, Collin Sheffield. Coach, let's talk about your first preseason. This is your first recruiting cycle. This is your first off season, kind of all wrapped in one with the program. So maybe talk a little bit about some of your initial struggles and maybe some of your initial success as well.
Yeah, the hiring timing was very unique. Got hired and they were supposed to start spring practice that week. Which obviously there was a lot of moving parts at that point. So one thing we did was we pushed back spring practice 2 weeks. That gave us a little bit of a time to come in, get the staff on board that we wanted here and that we desired to have here. And we're able to do that, man. That part of it was just unreal, just a huge blessing. Really had a list, and the first, handful of guys on that list said yes. Some of them were able to come immediately, which really helped the more guys that knew my expectation standards, our culture, what we were trying to build, guys that I had faith and trust in, most of them I had worked with before. To get them here really started to make me realize, like, okay, this is real. I was feeling a little better about things as one guy would show up, the next guy show up, and then, a lot of these guys had families, getting them moved, things like that. But yeah, with spring practice, pushing it back 2 weeks, really just kind of getting our standards, expectations. I mean, you have a player manual and it says, here's who we are, here's what we believe in, here's what you're going to be held to, here's the consequences if you don't meet these standards and expectations. And, over spring practice, the guys worked very hard. We were pretty low in number, just to be honest, but the guys worked really hard. There was a lot of good football players here, and we were able to accomplish a lot. And the biggest thing, it was way more than about football. It was by the end of the spring, we felt like we had made some really good strides and that the guys were buying in to what, we were expecting from them. Because somebody new always comes in and has these expectations, but the players are really going to try to figure out, is this for real, or is this just coach speak? Is this something they're just getting up and saying? And by the end of the spring, the last week, including the spring game, I didn't think it could have went any better. The first 3 weeks before that, there was a lot of growing pains, a lot of struggles, and we got through them. But really proud of our guys, and that set a really good foundation for this fall.
So you mentioned spring game. Let's talk just for a quick second about that, because it was a very unique spring game, one that we weren't accustomed to here. Yeah. It was a lot of fun, I got to say. There's dance-offs in the middle of it. I mean, there was a whole different energy around the spring game.
Yeah, and we won, so that's really important as well. Undefeated, right? It's something that we started at KCU. To me, it's the best opportunity for a recruiting event other than our 5 home games a year. We don't have a football game. Football is very unique, where you don't play from December until the next August, so you have a 8-month break there. And so what's a big recruiting event that we can put on our campus where people are coming that gives a semblance of a football game, during that stretch, and it is the spring game. So I think first and foremost, it's huge in recruiting. It was huge for us this year in recruiting. We have a lot of guys who are playing for us right now that we're using that game as kind of their visit. We have a lot of guys that will be on our team in a year in the 2024 class that we're using that game as a visit. And we had a lot of our commits and signees that showed up as well. Secondly, it's just a first look into the program. What's new, what's different, what's exciting. And I think the energy more than anything is what stood out to people. The support from the university, the alumni, I think 40 or 50 showed up. I mean, that was unreal. That gave me a big glimpse into this is a little different here with the alumni. I am a proud alumni. I've watched many Campbellsville football games and listened to you guys, and the coverage and everything is always awesome. And just seeing that the alumni are here, the school is here to support, the fans are here. It's just a great thing, and that again, it just confirmed for me the spring game that night that this is a place that can be the standard of NAI football.
So your first recruiting cycle, you've brought in, you've retained some of your players, you brought some transfers in, and then you get some new freshmen coming in as well. Talk a little bit about maybe some of those growing pains. There's blending that has to happen there. Was it a lot of a struggle off the bat? Has it really just evened out and smoothed out? Just talk a little bit about that.
we talked about it as a staff more than anything over the summer, that dynamic right there. We were pretty much almost a third of each, returners, transfers, guys that had played college football coming from different places, and freshmen. Most of the freshmen had signed and committed when I had taken the job here. Obviously, the returners were here. And then the transfers, there were a few, but that's what we really added and focused on. Obviously, our relationships, our coaches were able to bring in a lot of guys through that. Also, just right now in college football, you know, it's kind of a crazy market where there are all kinds of transfers. We got some guys from schools that shut down that are awesome football players. We got some other guys that were playing NAIA football around the country that decided to come, JUCO guys, everything. And I think we had to do it this first year, no doubt, to get our talent level where it needs to be competitive, to accomplish our goals of winning a conference, going to the playoffs, and competing for a national title. But yes, that dynamic was one as a head coach that as camp got closer, I started to think, how is this going to work out? Man, I cannot be more proud of our guys. There are a lot of guys that put their pride aside, ego aside. There's guys that were starting last year on teams in college football that are not going to start for us Saturday, but are going to be a big part of what we're doing, whether that's they're now the backup, they're a great special teams player, whatever it is. And at some point over the season, they probably will get an opportunity to start. And I just couldn't be more proud of the guys. We intentionally always do these things, but this fall camp probably even more, where we put the guys in situations where they have to meet each other. They have to spend time with each other. Team building, chemistry building, all those type of things. And again, man, the guys just jumped into it. A lot of pride and everything put aside, and really see some big time growth from our guys in that aspect.
Now, we brought in a lot of new coaches. They're most of everybody's familiar with Coach Atwood or Coach Brown. Maybe go over some of the new coaches that you brought in. Just a quick little, quick little introduction to them. Hopefully, we'll get the chance to meet them as the season goes on.
Yeah, for sure. So Coach Atwood and Coach Brown obviously been here, played with Coach Brown. Coach Atwood was coaching. Those two guys have been invaluable. Without those two, I'd still be trying to figure out, where the restroom is in our building. The other coaches, 3 guys I coached with last year. Coach Lane is our offensive line coach, just awesome man. All these guys are awesome men, awesome football coaches. Coach Owens was All-SEC at University of Georgia, played in the NFL, great player, of course, but coached our defensive line on the staff last year as well. Truly one of the best defensive line coaches I've ever been around. I mean, if he won it, he could be a Division I NFL coach one day. And then Coach Beatty is actually the only guy that's been with me since I got to KCU. He was there with me 2 years. Unbelievable energy, just super talented young coach, great defensive backs coach, that's what he's coaching for us, and the best special teams coach at our level. We led the nation in block kicks last year, 2nd return yards, and that is solely because of Coach Beatty and his energy getting the guys to buy in on special teams. Then we have Coach Jody Ford as our defensive coordinator. That's somebody who had not worked with previously, but a guy that had a relationship with through coaching a little bit. Coach Ford's been an NAIA head coach at 2 different schools. He's also been a defensive coordinator and defensive coach for a long, long time, probably just as long as the rest of the coaches coaching combined. So his experience, his mindset as a former head coach and everything has just been invaluable. And then lastly, something very unique we did on the staff, hired a director of football operations with our last full-time position. That's been the best decision I've ever made in my head coaching career by far. Better than any play call I'll ever make, anything. Coach Lewis, Dom Lewis, came from Union College where he played soccer and ran track. He was working in the administration there, and he has taken so much off my plate so I can do the things that I'm really passionate about and love, which is coaching football, coaching quarterbacks, offense, all those things. And, he's really calling like my cleaner, like all the stuff I forget about to do, things I'm behind on, whatever it is. Half the time I get in a frantic and go to him and he's like, oh yeah, I did that 2 days ago, don't worry about it. So he's a game changer. I said this in his statement when we hired him and they announced his hiring. He's going to change the way the NAIA schools construct their staff. So there's going to be a lot more full-time director of football operations in 10 years, maybe 5 years, because right now he's probably the first guy doing it that's not a coach. That's all he does, football operations, and it's awesome.
Well, we're going to step away, take another quick break, and we will be right back to talk about Coach's first game and first game at Finley Stadium here on Under Center with Jake Russell.
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that I would never be able to get over it and that my kids wouldn't have a father. I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. For the longest time, fear held me back from ultimately being who I wanted to. I had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry, I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back to Under Center with Jake Russell. I'm Collin Sheffield once again. Coach, it's your first game for the Tigers as head coach, I guess I should say. It's your first game at Finley Stadium. So let's talk about what you're most excited about just for yourself coming back to Finley Stadium for the first time and being a part of one of these games.
Yeah, we're kind of joking earlier, everybody's going to be there and everybody's excited. It feels like everybody I've talked to in the last month said they're going to be at the first game. They're so excited, everything like that. There is a buzz, obviously anything that's new, people are interested to see, what is this? Is this something I want to support? Is there something I want to come and watch? Things like that. First game is just for football coaches is the dream. We've gotten through the summer. We've gotten through a lot of the non-football stuff. We've made it for the players and the coaches through fall camp, which is just a totally different world in itself. And now this is our routine. This is what we love, a week-to-week grind of preparing for an opponent and going out and seeing where we stand each Saturday. But I'm super excited. A lot of my staff who are not familiar with Campbellsville, they're starting to see the band and a lot of the things that go along with the games here. And, I got to experience as a student athlete here, and it's just been enhanced in all ways since I've played here. But all those coaches are like, man, this feels like real deal college football. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to be really nice, And Campbellsville just does an unbelievable job with everything that goes along with running a football game. And honestly, some other things taken off our plate where we can focus on going out and trying to get our guys to perform at the highest level on Saturday.
You're not new to the MidSouth Conference, but there has been some shakeups. Some teams have left. Yeah. And so we've got 3, I believe, 8, 9, and 10 in the preseason top 25, 1 in the receiving votes. I know it's always preseason rankings. They don't necessarily mean anything, but it does put you on the radar a little bit. Mm-hmm. So maybe talk a little bit about your first expectations coaching in the Mid-South.
That's why I loved playing in the conference. It's what really was a big draw for me to come back, is that this is the best conference by far in NAIA football. It's proven every single year, whether it's through the end of the year rankings, teams that make the playoffs, whatever it is. And we use that in recruiting. If you want to play top 10 teams, multiple top 10 teams, have a chance to go to the playoffs, play in these big games every year, the MSC conference provides that. It's very fun. It's usually high scoring. And now with our partnership with the AAC, getting to play some of those teams around the state as well that we have some familiarity with. And just a really fun conference. And, you don't get weeks off. It's the SEC of NAIA, and there's battles every single week. And, even the bottom tier teams in our conference are still teams that you got to show up, play well to win against.
So you tee off against Pikeville. That game's at 7. So you got a night game. I know we were talking about that a little bit beforehand. You have all day to lead up to it, just a ball in your stomach kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But also, what are your expectations besides hopefully a win? Yeah. What are we looking forward to in this first game?
Yeah, we just want to play clean football. Have 11 guys on the field every play. Limit penalties, protect the football. force turnovers on the defensive side. Special teams just have clean reps, right? And those are the big things in the first game. You're going to find out a lot about your team in the first game, right? The big areas of improvement we need to make, our strengths. Guys will pop off, the tape and say, man, didn't really realize that guy was that good. Or, this position, we've got to find somebody that can get it done, out here on Saturdays. But the first game, the big thing is all this work we put in through fall camp, all the work we're putting in this week is just to be efficient and, like I said, just play a clean football game. The talent, the scheme, all that stuff, that'll take care of itself, but it's really just playing a clean football game and just going out and competing very hard, which our guys will do.
So I've had the privilege of being able to see a few of the scrimmages, a few of the practices. Thank you so much for letting us down there to kind of watch that and look at that, see this team out. What do you see the strengths of this team being, just initial from the scrimmages, practices? What do you see the strengths of the Tigers being?
Yeah, this will sound very cliche, but we're going to be really good in all three phases. There's been teams here, there's teams all over the country this year that will be very great in one of those areas, right? They might be great offensively, and they may have to go score 50 points a game to win because their defense isn't, as good. Or the opposite, the defense may be great and the offense is just struggling to score. Or maybe even both of those are good, but the special teams is really struggling, which at this level can be a huge difference maker. We're going to be really good in all three phases. There's going to be games this year we win maybe in the teens or low 20s. There's going to be games we win that are in the mid, upper 40s. And there's going to be games this year that we win solely because our special teams will be, better and more efficient than the other team.
Well, thank you for your time, Coach. I'll let you go. I appreciate you sitting down with us for this preseason episode.
Absolutely. Thank you. Excited for Saturday and just really excited to show all the hard work that our players have put in.
The Tigers will take on the Bears of Pikeville this Saturday at 7 o'clock. You can join us at Finley Stadium, or you can join us for radio coverage on 88.7 The Tiger or on Campbellsville Tigers YouTube page and CU Sports Network. I'm Collin Sheffield, and this has been Under Center with Jake Russell.